I never expected her to remember my name, let alone the way I took my coffee. It was nothing special, just a paper cup with a cardboard sleeve, the kind that goes soft at the edges if you don't drink fast enough. I'd stopped by the corner cafe after work, same as always, because it was easier than going home to an apartment that smelled faintly of detergent and microwave food. I stood in line scrolling through my phone, thumb hovering over a text I'd already written and erased twice. Nothing urgent, just a question that didn't need answering. When I reached the counter, I didn't look up right away. I said my order out of habit. Medium coffee. No sugar. No sugar, she repeated. Then, after a beat, still. I looked up then. She was smiling, but not in a way that demanded anything back. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot, a few strands escaping near her ears. She wore a sweater that looked too soft for public places. I recognized her before my brain caught up, my friend's mom. I hadn't seen her in months. Last time was at his place, passing in the hallway, both of us holding things we didn't know where to put. Hey, I said. It came out quieter than I meant. Hey, she said back. She folded the receipt once, then unfolded it, then folded it again, like she was deciding where it belonged. You look tired. I shrugged. Long day. She nodded, like that answered something. Long days seemed to stack up. She slid the coffee toward me. Our fingers didn't touch, but they got close enough that I noticed the small scar near her knuckle. I wondered how long it had been there, and why I hadn't seen it before. I took a seat by the window. She didn't rush back to the counter right away. Instead, she wiped the same clean spot with a cloth, eyes drifting toward me and then away. When the place emptied out a little, she brought her own mug over and sat across from me without asking. Your friend doesn't come by much anymore, she said. Yeah, I said. He's busy. She smiled at that. Not sad, just knowing. She wrapped both hands around her mug, even though steam wasn't coming off it anymore. We talked about nothing important. The weather turning too fast. A new bakery opening down the street. She laughed once, softly, and then seemed surprised by it, like the sound had come from someone else. I found myself watching her hands when she talked, how she pressed her thumb into the rim of the mug, how she stilled them when she noticed me looking. I didn't feel lonely in a dramatic way. It was more like a background noise I'd gotten used to. Nights where I left the TV on without watching. Messages I typed and never sent. Pauses that stretched a second too long because there was no one on the other end to notice. When she stood to leave, she hesitated. I'm closing early tonight, she said. If you're not in a rush. I nodded, even though I hadn't been waiting for anything. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. She locked the door behind us, then stopped, keys still in her hand. Do you ever feel like, she said, then stopped. Looked at me, looked away. Never mind. She handed me my cup, which I'd forgotten on the table. Text me when you get home, she added, too casually, like it was something we'd always done. Later that night, my phone buzzed while I was brushing my teeth. A voicemail notification. From her. It was only 10 seconds long. She hadn't meant to send it. I listened to the voicemail twice before deleting it. It was nothing. That was the problem. Just her voice, close to the phone, saying my name like she was testing how it sounded when no one was listening. Then a pause. A breath. And the sound of a mug being set down. She must have realized what she was doing, because the message ended abruptly, like a door closing mid-sentence. The next few days felt slightly off, like I'd shifted my weight without noticing. I replayed the way she'd said text me when you get home, the way her eyes hadn't quite met mine when she locked the cafe door. I imagined alternate versions of that night. Longer conversations, different endings, then shut them down before they could settle. I didn't text her. Not until she texted me first. I made too much tea. If you're nearby. I was nearby. I always was. Her house smelled like lemon cleaner and something warm underneath it. Baked bread, maybe. Or just the memory of it. The lights were low, not in a deliberate way, just evening doing what it does. She handed me a mug, ceramic this time, already cooling. Our fingers brushed. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. We sat at the small kitchen table. A clock ticked loudly on the wall. She noticed it before I did and reached up to still it, then laughed under her breath. That thing makes me feel like I'm running out of time, she said. On what? I asked. She shrugged, folding a napkin into a narrow strip. Everything. She told me about a job she'd turned down years ago because it would have meant moving. About how she'd convinced herself it was the right choice because it kept her life simpler. I'm good at being practical, she said. Sometimes I worry I mistake that for being brave. I didn't know what to say, so I told her something small. That I kept my phone on silent even when I was waiting for someone to text. That it felt safer not to hear it buzz and feel disappointed. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was taking a mental picture she didn't plan to keep. This is probably not, she started, then stopped. Took a sip of her tea and winced. Too hot. I smiled. You say that every time. She raised an eyebrow. You've noticed. There it was, the line we both saw and pretended not to. I thought about her son, about the way he'd grown up in this house, about the years between us, stacked quietly like books you don't open anymore. I imagined what it would look like if someone walked in right then. How ordinary it would seem. How wrong it would feel afterward. We washed the mugs together. She dried. I stacked. Our shoulders bumped once, lightly. She apologized even though it was my fault. When we finished, neither of us moved away right away. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy, but not unpleasant, like a blanket you weren't sure you deserved. At the door, she hesitated. Her hand stayed on the knob longer than necessary. I'm glad you came, she said. Yeah, I said. Me too. She reached out and straightened the collar of my jacket, a gesture so small it almost didn't register. Her fingers lingered for half a second too long. She looked up at me, then away, like she was giving herself an out. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me and chose not to look away. After that night, I started noticing patterns the way you notice a crack spreading slowly across a wall. She stopped texting late. Messages came earlier now, clipped, careful. Hope your day was good. Did you eat? Nothing that needed a reply. Nothing that asked me to stay. I told myself it was nothing. People adjust. That's what adults do. They notice a line and step back from it before anyone gets hurt. Still, I found excuses to pass by the cafe. She'd look up when the bell rang, then relax when she saw it was me. Or tense. Sometimes both. We talked in shorter sentences. She wiped the counter a lot. I folded napkins even when they didn't need folding. One afternoon, my friend showed up unexpectedly. He slapped my shoulder, asked what I was doing there. I said coffee, like that explained everything. She laughed too loudly at something he said. I watched her do it. The way she leaned into being his mother for a moment, like putting on a coat she knew fit. I didn't come by for a week after that. When I finally did, she was closing again. The lights dimmed. The door unlocked longer than it needed to be. I thought you disappeared, she said, not accusing. Just stating a fact. I didn't, I said. I just figured you might need space. Her mouth opened, then closed. She nodded once. Space is good. We stood there. The air felt different. Charged, but muted. Like something humming behind a wall. She asked me to help carry boxes to the back room. Old supplies. Things that had been waiting longer than they should have. We worked without talking. Our hands brushed. Paused. Didn't move away right away. I could feel my pulse in places I wasn't used to noticing. Can I ask you something? She said. Yeah. She hesitated. Looked at the floor. Do you ever get the feeling that you're being misread? I thought about lying. Didn't. Sometimes I worry I'm the one doing the reading wrong. She let out a quiet breath. Not relief. Not disappointment. Something in between. She picked up another box. Too fast. Knocked it against the shelf. Paper spilled. She cursed softly. I knelt to help. Handed her a folder. Our fingers closed around it at the same time. We stayed like that. Too close. Her perfume. Clean. Faint. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then away. Mine followed before I could stop them. This is probably a bad idea, she said, barely audible. I nodded. Yeah. Neither of us moved. Footsteps sounded near the front. Someone rattled the door handle. We sprang apart like we'd been burned. It was just a delivery driver, confused about ours. She handled it, calm, composed. I watched her from the back room. The way she slipped back into herself so easily, like nothing had almost happened. When she came back, she leaned against the counter, arms crossed. I don't think I should keep doing this, she said. Not looking at me. Doing what? She glanced up then. Her eyes were tired. Honest. Pretending I don't know what this is. I swallowed. Do you know? She stepped closer. Stopped just short of touching me. I could feel the heat of her. The question hung there, unanswered. She lifted her hand. Hesitated. Let it fall back to her side. Go, she said softly. I didn't kiss her. But when I left, the door stayed unlocked behind me longer than it should have. We didn't talk for a few days after that. Not really. Short messages. Practical ones. The kind that leave no fingerprints. Then she asked if I could walk with her after closing. Just around the block. I need air, she said. Nothing else. It was colder than it looked. She zipped her coat halfway, then stopped, fingers hesitating at the pull like she'd forgotten what she was doing. We walked side by side, not touching. Our steps didn't line up at first. Then they did. I noticed. I tried not to. She told me about a customer who'd asked if she was seeing anyone. I laughed, she said. Too fast. Like I was being accused of something. She kicked at a loose stone, sent it skidding across the pavement. I hated how much it bothered me. I knew what she was saying without her saying it. I also knew what I wasn't allowed to say back. We sat on a bench near the closed playground. Swings creaked in the wind. One of them rocked slowly, empty, like it had been left mid-conversation. She watched it for a long time. My son asked about you, she said finally. I stiffened. What did you say? That you've been busy. She glanced at me, quick. Which isn't a lie. I nodded. My hands were tucked under my thighs, fists pressed into the wood. I felt 16 again and 40 at the same time. All the wrong ages at once. I keep thinking, she said, then stopped. Smiled without humor. No, that's not true. I keep not thinking. Because when I do, her voice trailed off. She exhaled slowly, like she was letting something heavy down to the floor. I don't trust myself right now, she said. That scares me more than anything else. The honesty landed harder than anything dramatic could have. I imagined her alone at night, phone face down. Imagined myself becoming something she'd have to explain, or hide, or regret. I don't want to be a problem, I said. It sounded small even to me. She shook her head. You're not a problem. Then, quieter. That's the problem. We sat there. The silence wasn't comfortable anymore. It was tight, expectant. I felt something inside me push forward, tired of being reasonable. I think about you, I said. Not a confession, just a fact. More than I should. She closed her eyes. Just for a second. When she opened them, they were wet but steady. I know. She turned toward me then, really turned. Her knee brushed mine. She didn't move it away. Her hand lifted, hovered near my sleeve. I could feel the question in the space between her fingers and my arm. If this were different, she said. If we were different, she didn't finish. She didn't have to. The world felt very thin right then, like it could tear with one wrong move. I leaned in without deciding to. She didn't pull back. Her breath caught. My heart did something painful and hopeful at the same time. She whispered my name. And all I could think was, what would happen if I answered the question she hadn't asked out loud? She didn't answer my last message. It was nothing urgent. Just did you get home okay? The kind of text that doesn't demand a story. When a day passed, then two, I told myself I'd misread the rhythm. That this was what stepping back looked like when it was done properly. So I stopped going by the cafe. I took a longer route home. Bought groceries at a place with worse lighting. Nights stretched. The TV stayed on later than usual. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone, then remember there was nothing to check. I kept it face down anyway. A week later, I ran into her at the bookstore near the park. It wasn't dramatic. No music cue. She was in the aisle with cookbooks, reading a spine like it might give her permission to leave. She looked different. Not dressed up. Just guarded. Hair neater. Posture careful. Hey, I said. She startled, then smiled. The polite version. Hey. We stood there, a step too far apart. I noticed a paperback tucked under her arm. A title about starting over. I wondered how long she'd been holding it. I've been meaning to, I started. I should have told you, she said at the same time. We stopped. She gestured to a bench by the window. We sat. Sunlight cut across the floor, dust floating in it like something unfinished. My ex has been coming around, she said, staring straight ahead. It's not what it sounds like. He's helping with something. Papers. Logistics. A pause. My son asked if we were trying again. I didn't know where to put my hands. I folded them, unfolded them, and she exhaled. I said I didn't know. That hurt more than a yes would have. It also made sense. I should have been clearer, she said. About boundaries. I nodded, because that was the adult thing to do. Because I didn't want to be the reason her life got complicated in a way she'd regret. I didn't mean to blur anything, she added. Her voice softened. But I did. We sat there, both of us looking at the same spot on the floor like it might change if we watched long enough. After that, things thinned out. She closed the cafe earlier. Or later. I wasn't sure. I wasn't there to see it. When we texted, it was brief. Careful. Weather. A show she thought I'd like. No invitations. No air needing to be gotten. I drafted a message one night and didn't send it. I miss the way you say my name when you're not trying to. I deleted it. Typed another. I can handle honesty, even if it's inconvenient. Deleted that too. The bench near the playground stayed empty the next time I walked past. The swing still moved in the wind. I sat for a minute, then stood, left without sitting down. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. She knocked on my door on a Tuesday night, the kind that doesn't feel important until later. I almost didn't answer. I'd been standing in the kitchen, microwave humming, staring at my phone like it might do something on its own. When the knock came again, soft, measured, I knew it was her before I checked. She looked tired, not undone, just honest about it. Her coat was still on. One hand held her keys too tightly. I won't stay long, she said. Okay, I said, stepping aside. We stood in the kitchen because neither of us suggested anywhere else. The overhead light felt too bright, but neither of us reached for the switch. She leaned against the counter, crossed her arms, then uncrossed them like she was trying to decide what version of herself to be. I didn't disappear because of you, she said. I need you to know that. I nodded. I figured. That's not the same as knowing, she said gently. I was scared of how easy it felt, and of how hard it would be to undo. She looked at the sink, the drying rack, the mug I hadn't put away. My ex leaving again shouldn't have mattered, she went on. But it did. It reminded me how quickly things can look like something they're not. I waited. Let the space do its work. I don't regret knowing you, she said. The words landed carefully, like she'd practiced them. But I regret not being clearer about what I can and can't carry. My chest tightened. Not painfully, just enough to remind me I was here. I didn't want to be a secret, I said. Or a mistake. You weren't, she said immediately. Then softer, you aren't. We stood there, close enough that I could feel the heat from her arm. I thought about everything that would happen if I leaned in. Everything that wouldn't. I care about you, I said. It felt like a risk even then, in a way that doesn't fit neatly anywhere. She smiled at that. A real one. Small. Sad. That's exactly it. She reached out, hesitated, then rested her hand over mine on the counter. It wasn't dramatic. No pull. No tremble. Just contact. Skin reminding skin. This is me choosing to be honest, she said. Not brave. Just honest. I turned my hand slightly, so our fingers lined up. Didn't interlace them. Didn't squeeze. Just stayed. I can live with that, I said, and meant it. She stayed another minute. Maybe two. Then she nodded, like a decision had been quietly confirmed. Okay, she said. Okay, I echoed. When she left, she didn't look back. I stood in the doorway longer than necessary, then closed it gently, like there was still something fragile on the other side. Time did what it always does when you stop arguing with it. Weeks passed, then months. Not in a montage way, just mornings stacking up. I went back to buying groceries at the same place. I stopped leaving the TV on at night. The phone stayed face down, but it didn't feel defensive anymore. Just quiet. I didn't see her for a while. Not on purpose. Not avoidance either. Our lives adjusted around the absence like water finding a new shape. Then one morning, at 8:47 a.m., I walked into the cafe again. The bell rang. Same sound. Same pause afterward. She looked up from the machine. Took a second longer than necessary. Smiled. Black coffee, she said. No sugar. Still, I said back. She laughed, soft, surprised, like she'd forgotten that sound belonged to her. She handed me the cup. This time our fingers did touch. Briefly. Intentionally. Neither of us apologized. Things didn't rush after that. They never had. I started coming in on Thursdays. She started saving a seat near the window, not obviously, just a chair angled slightly outward. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. Tea for her now, always cooling too fast. Coffee for me, always gone before it should have been. One afternoon, we walked past the old bench near the playground. The swings were still there. One still creaked when the wind felt like remembering something. We didn't sit. We stood, watched, shared the moment without claiming it. Her son knew, eventually. Not everything. Just enough. There were conversations that took time. Lines drawn carefully. Respected. Nothing explosive. Just life rearranging itself slowly, the way it prefers to. We didn't move in together. Not right away. She stayed at my place sometimes. I learned where she kept things even when she wasn't there. She learned which mug I avoided because the handle got too hot. It was ordinary in a way that felt earned. Once, late, she admitted, I thought choosing you would feel reckless. And I asked. She shrugged, smiling into her tea. It feels calm. That was the word. Not passion. Not destiny. Calm. Like sitting down after holding something heavy for too long. Sometimes I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. Like she was still surprised I was real. I did the same. Especially in moments that didn't ask for attention. Her tying her hair up. Her reading something twice because she drifted. There was no moment where everything clicked into place. Just a lot of moments where nothing fell apart. One night, we locked up the cafe together. She forgot the door was still unlocked. We noticed. Laughed. Fixed it. Old habits unlearning themselves. Later, lying beside her, listening to the city do what it does best. Exist without commentary. I realized something simple. We hadn't chosen each other because it was easy. We chose each other because, quietly, carefully, it stayed. And sometimes, that's the whole story.